have about 4 full-time reporters at the Legal who are focusing on a number of different beats. We all will cover court opinions and verdicts and stuff. That's just our bread and butter. We all have to be proficient in doing that. But then within that, I cover the large law firm, the business of law beat. Zach covers the small to mid-sized firm beat. The definition of what that is really depends on the day, so I know that doesn't make your job super easy. But basically, we want to know from a business of law perspective who you're adding at your firm, what management changes are going on, administrative and marketing issues that you face, practice areas that are really busy, and what's driving work for your firm or not. There's just a ton of different topics, but I think I typically cover the AmLaw 200 firms and maybe the top 20 or so on the largest PA law firm list, but Zach has covered those firms as well, so I think you can feel free to reach out to one or both of us, and we'll let you know, like, hey, don't be offended if I say, oh, don't call me with that, call Zach. It's not a personal thing, but just to spread out the work and give you guys a better chance of having somebody get the article in.
What's your news day look like, and when is, don't call me, I'm writing, and or best time to pitch?
Best time to pitch is in the morning. Generally when I get in around 9, I'll spend the first 2 hours searching for news, and try to get in an ideal day, then I'll have a very good sense of the 2 or 3 stories I'll be working on throughout the day after that. Obviously, breaking news, if you have a big win in the afternoon, I want to hear about it. I want to hear about it in the afternoon.
The earlier the better, and sometimes if you know that you have something coming out the next day and you have the time and the go-ahead to give us a call and say, hey, this is coming out, that gives me a little bit of a lead time that night to prep, but the morning is great. And again, as Dan said, if something big happens, we want to know about it whenever it happens. You can't always control when things come down, but we have slightly earlier deadlines than some pubs. I think we're pretty much putting our papers to bed and handing them off to our editors by 5 at the latest, so to the earlier in the day.
Do you want client alerts? Because I know we all have those to send out, right?
Not everyone. If it's an alert on something that this is a really hot area or a big case, like maybe just, I don't mean to double up your work, but you can send the alert, but also just let us know, hey, this is an issue that our attorney is really involved with and can talk about, and it's a broad issue. Or give me a little context, because if it's just a decision that came down in Texas that affects your client, I don't know, do I care, do I not?
Yeah, I think we're pretty much in the same boat there.
Okay, so be selective. Don't just, blanket list. Okay, what about, let's talk about a little bit about some terms, because again, we have some experienced media people in the room and some not so experienced. You guys are very respectful of embargoes. I think I found both, and if you don't know, as Gina said, I have, and I'm sure some more of the more experienced people have known that, hey, we're going to announce something at 10 tomorrow, we want a really good story, and I have trusted Gina to know at 4 o'clock the night before who the new lateral is. She's pre-interviewed the lateral, and it goes out at 10 o'clock. So especially any of the smaller firms, when your partners are skeptical, I think both of these media outlets are trustworthy enough that if you called Dan and said, I'd like to give it to you, but you have to guarantee me it won't go out till tomorrow at 10. And can you talk about, do either of your outlets have a philosophy on that? I know there is, in particular, there used to be at an AmLaw, there used to be a lovely woman in San Francisco who refused embargoed information. And you know who I mean.
I have no guesses at who you mean. We've gotten burned on them a couple times. I'm not going to say no, most likely, because, there's colleagues like Dan who we can trust, and I know that you guys can trust, but there are some other publications, perhaps larger general circulation publications, that don't want to deal with the embargo, and I think that firms want to be in those publications, so they don't care if the embargo gets broken. So there's no ramifications, and then we're stuck being late. So it's tricky. If it's on, a lateral, a general circ pub might not care, and so if you're just giving it to us, then it works. But there are some things where if it comes out, the next day in the Inquirer and we agree to the embargo, my boss is going to be pissed at me and say, we're not doing it. So,
or you won't do any in the future, that's for sure.
Right.
It's a good, actually, I don't know what our newsroom philosophy is towards embargoes. I know my personal philosophy is that, I will follow an embargo if you approach me with it.
Okay. And what about some other terms? I know if we call him, if I said to you, he's willing to talk to you on background, he's willing to talk to you off the record or on the record, I hope we all know that means anything you say can and will be held in public. But what does on background and mean for you?
For us, I mean, I will just start by saying, just make sure you know, or the partner that's talking to this person knows what that individual reporter's philosophy is. Because I think as a paper, we have a little bit of a different philosophy that on background is stuff that we could never use, and off the record is if we get enough of it, you know, we can use the sentiment, we just can't attribute it. I don't even know, I have to admit that I follow that exact philosophy. I just try to be pretty explicit with the people I'm talking about, like, I'm not going to use this, or I'll go back to them and say, oh, can I use this but not attribute it to you, just say a partner said or some, you know. So it's really something that the attorney and the reporter, whoever the reporter's talking to, they have to kind of work that out on their own.
So the smartest thing is, and I guess you would agree with that.
Yeah, these terms are unfortunately nebulous, and
I've seen on background and off the record totally intermixed.
And I think it gets confusing. And
So the smartest thing to do is when you are doing an interview, whether if it's Dan or Gina or Zach or somebody else, say, absolutely, we want it totally on background. You can't use anything without our permission. And that's the smartest thing. And Peggy will tell you how many times, and Kara, that they've been on the phone call and they said, we start the phone call that way. Let's do everything off the record or on background. And then if you want to use something, let us know.
And it's obviously not off the record or on background until said. So from this, typically we operate once the phone's picked up, we're on the record unless you say
You have to
otherwise.
assume it's on the record to start.